Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 106 of the Ron and Brian podcast. I am Ron, as always, joined by the cover model for the final edition of Blue Boy magazine way back in December 2007. Brian, looks like you got your paper product issue settled here based on your background. Just for those of you who listen to the podcast, you can always hop over to our YouTube channel, see the video as well. Brian, you are a wash in toilet paper, it would seem.
I'm going to tell you something. It was recently brought to my attention that there is a Taco Bell 2 blocks away from me.
Ooh.
That has opened up recently. I've never gone inside, but I want to be prepared in case I ever do decide one drunk evening to swing by and have myself a chalupa.
Is it the chalupa that you would go with? Is that your kind of go-to dish at the Taco Bell?
Okay. I really was hoping you were not going to call me out on it. I don't know what my go-to at Taco Bell is.
All right. Have you gone to breakfast at Taco Bell?
Never.
Good call.
I've never, I don't know the difference between a gordita and a chalupa. I remember liking gorditas when they came out. It might have been 1987, so I may be dating myself a little bit here.
The biggest difference I always saw between the gordita and the chalupa, I think, was mostly the shell. Like the gordita had the soft shell, where the chalupa had the crunchier shell. I preferred the gordita. There was a certain sauce that came on one of the gorditas that I liked. Like I could put down like a lot of Taco Bell.
I can imagine. And afterwards, you're going to come crying to me because I got the goods behind me, baby. Look at this. I've got Cottonelle, Scott, that other brand. It's Charmin.
All name brand. No.
My prices are insane. No, well, that's what we sell to the immigrants.
I understand. So going back in the day, just I don't know why the Taco Bell made me think of this. I remember when I first started going to college down in Stony Brook on Long Island, there was a Taco Bell next to a White Castle right down the road, and we would go down and we'd get you'd get the Crave pack, you'd get the 10-pack of tacos, go back to the dorms, eat all of it, and then slowly realize that you shouldn't have.
How old were you again?
I was probably like 18 or 19 at that point.
You
can
process
it a lot better.
Yeah, but you can eat massive amounts of terrible food at that age and get away with it.
You know what I learned about White Castle this week that I never knew before is that the meat patties never actually touch the grill. They rest on top of the onions as the onions cook, and the heat just comes up and cooks the patties.
Really?
It's a very random piece of trivia that I learned this week.
Can I ask how you learned it?
I was watching a food video, and the guy was making his own White Castle at home, and he was like, he's like, I just learned that you just put all the chopped onions on the grill, get those cooking, and then put all the frozen patties right on top.
And the idea is that the patties are so thin that it can cook fully without direct heat.
Yeah, and you're really, the meat's really getting steamed more than getting fried.
I don't know that you actually can legally refer to that as meat.
That's very true. He was using a higher grade of meat, so I'm sure his patties were probably a lot better.
Oh, I bet he's got some nice patties.
Well, in the meantime, let's get things rolling here, Brian. Time to have a drink.
Drink of the week.
All right, we've cracked it open. Brian, what are you drinking this week?
I know you were going to accuse me of drinking Jack Daniels. You would be wrong.
Really? Not a Jack and Pepsi, not a Jack and Ginger?
If you wanted to accuse me of having a Macallan Scotch, you would be wrong.
Really? Well, I apologize. Those were all my thought process.
Today, I have got a Tools of the Trade from, what's the name of this? From the Industrial Arts Brewing Company. I would describe it as an American pale ale. Simple, polished, crispy, dry, fresh, bright. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to take a sip right now.
Now, Brian, that's quite a fancy beer. How is it you have such a fancy beer right at your fingertips all of a sudden during this pandemic?
I have you to thank for that.
Stop.
Now, was that just a ploy for you to just get the accolades of making my life better?
Possibly a little bit.
So, listeners, earlier this week, Ron sent me a link to a beer delivery service located here in New York City that offers same-day delivery if you live in the boroughs of Brooklyn and Queens, which I'm one of those eligible customers. Free delivery on orders of $25 or more, and a genuine fine selection of beers, not just from New York State. They've got them nationwide. They actually have a deal right now with Corona, ironically, where they're selling. I think they have 7 different beers that Corona is currently putting out.
Interesting.
And I don't need a ventilator for one of those.
Hey.
But not only do I have you to thank for it, and not only do I have Taproom, TAPRM .com, but I also have the fine folks at Best Buy, because right after you had sent me that link, I took it upon myself to jump on Best Buy's website. I placed an order for a beer refrigerator, which I have now set up in my living room. Technically, they claim it can hold 115 cans of beverages. I mean, let's face it, I'm not putting seltzer in there.
Sure.
I'd be hard pressed to get 115 in there, but I've never really been good at packing.
Yes, you kept complaining. Some were saying, whining like a little bitch, but definitely you were taking umbrage in the fact that I had such a variety of craft breweries that would deliver to my house, and you, in the middle of the greatest city on the planet, couldn't get beer delivered. So I went to our good friends at Google, typed it in, and that popped up. I'm like, hey, this is something that's going to solve Brian's problem. And the prices really didn't even seem that outrageous.
Not at all. I think I picked up about 20 beers, and all came in at about $80.
And free delivery after only $25. So it's a pretty good deal.
Same day.
Same day delivery. Very important.
I placed the order at about 11 o'clock, and they said we'll deliver tonight between 6 and 10, which to me nowadays is too good of a service.
Well, this week I'm going with another local craft brewery. Again, one that does some very nice contact-free delivery right to my front door. These are the good folks at Moss Mill Brewing Company out of Huntington Valley, Pennsylvania. I picked up their Pine to Pink Pale Ale. Clocking in at a 6.5%. Hold that up so you can see it. Brian's got a little bit of a reddish hue. Got some strawberry in there. So I've actually never had this one of theirs. So let me see here.
You do. I am jealous of your just incredible options that you have available to you. I will admit that.
That is nice. It's got a nice crisp strawberry aftertaste, and not too much. This is a nice little summer beer. And also, the reason it's called Pine to Pink Pale Ale is they've partnered with Pine to Pink, which is a local charity that helps people with breast cancer. So proceeds of each purchase go to help people suffering from breast cancer.
Ron, can you please give it a break with all of your charitable do wells?
All of my altruism. I mean, listen, if I can help people by drinking beer, I'm going to do that.
Is there any lactose in that beer?
This particular one, no. But I did pick up some additional beers today from Broken Goblet that had some lactose. But we'll discuss that later, because we have to do a beer purchase from Broken Goblet soon.
Ooh,
They're
I'm a fan of Broken
great
Goblet.
beers next week, so we'll talk about it. But in the meantime, yes, sir. Before we move on, you were going to say something.
No, not at all. I was just going to tell you that I love you.
Oh, love you even more. But you know what else we love? Racism.
This week in
Racism.
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 all right, maybe love is a strong word. We would love to see it eradicated, but in the meantime, we did have some stories that we tracked this week. Going to Aiken, South Carolina. There is a woman down there, 38-year-old Elizabeth Shirey, apparently yelled at a young African-American girl, Skylar Davis, 11 years old, accusing her of stealing her mail. Even though Skylar had just gone to get her grandmother's mail and was walking past Elizabeth's house. Eventually realized that she was wrong after she saw the address of the mail that Skylar was holding didn't match hers. Before that happened, she got herself charged with assault because she grabbed Skylar by her arms and pulled them. When she realized she was in the wrong, she tried to make up for it by offering some cookies, but the police don't take kindly to abusing kids. According to the police report, Elizabeth's husband, Justice, also involved himself in the altercation. Skylar said he was rude to her and another minor who was on the scene. And after realizing she had done nothing wrong, he told her that things would have gone differently if she was of a different, quote, type.
Oh, no.
I can't imagine what he was referring to there. So we will follow that, see what happens there. Brian, your third favorite bachelorette made the news this week. Hannah B, after she said the N-word on her Instagram Live.
Oh my God, like I'm a cop. Have you ever seen a real nigga rock star?
So at first, tried to defend herself and said, people were overreacting. And then finally came out and apologized after she was just getting torn apart online. I guess it bears repeating. If you're white, just don't use the N-word, even if you're singing along to a song.
That's what I'm getting at. It sounds like, how can you really charge? I mean, you could charge her with stupidity for saying the N-word unnecessarily, but I don't think, but she wasn't actually using the N-word. Let me rephrase it. She was quoting lyrics from a song.
She was. But
it happened to have the...
Listen.
Oh my God, like I'm a cop. Have you ever seen a real nigga rock star?
But the funny thing is you can hear her, like, while she's saying it, realize that she's probably doing something wrong. So I think the fact that she did it, tried to defend herself, and then apologize probably made it worse than it was going to be.
Nowadays, you just have to go right to the full apology.
Yes.
There's absolutely no need to sit there and take the approach of, you know what, I'm going to be able to explain this one away.
Yeah, not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
I found this clip from earlier in the week. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of background to it. It is a old woman confronting a black man in a parking lot, using the N-word towards him multiple times, and then he sprays her with air freshener.
Call me another nigga. Nigger. Call me another nigga. Nigger. Hey, y'all, watch this.
I love that video.
She's in a wheelchair, and he just goes up and just blasts her in the face with the air freshener. And she totally deserves it. That's why I was thinking of putting this up for a vote, but since street justice was already delivered, seems kind of anticlimactic to have us throw her against the buzzsaw that is Freeman and Hume, still looking for competition a few weeks after their big win.
You know, Ron, the only way that they're going to get knocked out is for them to win 4 weeks.
All right. I mean, I'm okay putting this up for a vote if you are. I mean, again, let's recap the Freeman and Hume audio from a few weeks back.
Hey, today we're making
Niggers.
First we have black.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty black.
Yeah. Next we have don't have a
Don't
dad.
have a dad? Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have eat watermelon and fried chicken.
Fried chicken,
Yeah.
watermelon? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty good.
that's yeah.
Next one is make good choices. Let's see.
There's nothing there. Next we have rob people.
Specifically whites. Yeah, they do that.
Last one is
Go to jail?
All right, so we have that, which I think would fall under ignorance, to say the least. Whereas this old woman, I think, is just spewing straight hatred. Let's hear her again.
Call me another nigga. Nigger. Call me another nigga. Nigger. Hey, y'all, watch this.
So, I mean, who am I to say? Maybe it'll be a closer competition. So we will put Freeman and Hume up against racist old woman in the This Week in Racism voting, which you can vote on Facebook and or Twitter. You can also just go to ronandbrianpodcast.com for links to all of our social media. Brian, you're calling for a vote, so obviously I have to call on you to make a prediction as to who's going to win.
The two kids, hands down. To me, they are semi-finalists in our year-end racism tournament. Who will be sponsoring this year? We have no idea. It's a little, too early to start talking to potential sponsors. However, if you're looking to lock it in early, you're going to have to pay a fee. But reach out to us on our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, email, website. But yeah, no, these kids are they are primed for a deep run in the tournament. Nobody's going to take them down.
All right. Well, once again, go to Facebook, go to Twitter, place your vote, because your votes, as always, decide who our winner will be. In the meantime, Brian?
We will not just be, because we do take our cues from our president number 45. We do not allow mail-in ballots.
No, definitely not. We need to know that the people who are voting are the people that are voting. We're not going to have the rampant racist ballot harvesting that we've heard so much about from people.
Which is why we use a thorough method called Facebook, which we know is always an accurate source of information. It's a trusted. It's
almost as accurate as Twitter.
Pretty much, I would say so.
All right. In the meantime, let's air some beefs.
Ron and Brian's Beef of the Week.
Brian, what is bothering you this week?
Myself.
Really?
I ordered from Peapod again.
Oh, you poor bastard.
I got most of what I ordered.
All right.
I am missing 2 cans of Progresso soup. Split pea with ham.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's a good one, right? Didn't have it. I'm not going to call them. I'm not going to complain.
So you got charged for it, but it didn't get delivered.
I'm out $5.
That's it?
I'm just it's the fact that I'm gullible. I saw that there was, and keep in mind, I placed this order 2 weeks ago. Like that is the availability for grocery deliveries in my neck of the woods. I don't have a fancy Whole Foods that will deliver same day, top notch produce, meat and vegetables. No, not at all. I got a 2-week-old order, and they fucking they can't get it right.
Wow. Well, I feel for you, my friend. I absolutely feel for you. My beef is, really along similar lines. I was able to get 2-hour delivery from Wegmans the other morning after placing an order. Can you believe that, Brian? Within 2 hours, I had all my groceries right there.
I only know 2-week delivery.
Anyway, my beef is that, I was looking to get some vegetables, and you basically specify, like, I'd like roughly this poundage of vegetables when I ordered. So I was trying to get like a couple pounds of squash, trying to get like 1.5 pounds of tomatoes, and like you can check in the app as things are being shopped. And I saw like, instead of like 1.5 pounds of tomatoes on the vine, I got like 3/4 of a pound. So I messaged the guy. I'm like, listen, can you go back and get more tomatoes on the vine? And he said, sure. So I get the order. There's my 3/4 of a pound of tomatoes on the vine. And instead of grabbing more tomatoes on the vine, he just grabbed a big beefsteak tomato and threw it in there. Different enough that it just wasn't what I was looking for.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
for my
Do you
squash,
realize the white privilege, the fucking white privilege? Like, I thought that I was being a petty bitch because I was missing 2 cans of fucking soup. And you're coming with the heat of how dare I got a beefsteak tomato instead of my tomatoes on the
now
vine.
listen, I managed to make the beefsteak tomato work during the week, but when you're making a tomato and mozzarella salad, you want everything to be around the same size. And here I had this big beefsteak tomato. Just wasn't, and then I needed 2 pounds of yellow squash. I got 1.25 pounds. And it's just, it throws off all my recipes, Brian.
Now, as somebody who does not have access to a Wegmans, I'm intrigued by the ability that you have to see what they're picking up for you in the store.
Well, they're using, they're using Instacart, so I think they just integrate the Instacart technology into their website and app. But yeah, as I'm shopping, like I'll get a text and they'll be like, Frank had to substitute this product for this, so take a look. And oh, we didn't have this product, so we'll refund you unless you want to look for like an alternative. So it's a very interactive experience. Whole Foods is the same way as well.
Really?
But that order I had to actually wait like 6 hours for on Saturday.
See, I got this morning. I got Carl just fucking forgot about your cans of soup.
That's great. Although I was bummed, the Wegmans pizza was out of stock. That is
that's your
stuff right there.
That's your shit. Like, we know that. Do not fuck. Nobody comes between Ron and his Wegmans pizza.
Well, Brian, I hope you are able to get quicker deliveries in the immediate future and get all your deliveries.
Well, it all depends on what this upcoming spike of cases is going to be as we start loosening up this country. New York, earlier today, New York City Mayor William, or as I like to call him, Bill de Blasio, announces that he's expecting New York to be able to start phase 1 reopening sometime between June 1st and June 15th. Which,
that is very optimistic, I think, because we're already, this is the 21st of May?
Yep.
I know Billy closed the beaches or ordered the beaches to remain closed this upcoming Memorial Day weekend. However, people can just go to the Jersey Shore and spread the coronavirus there and then come back to New York City. So we will see how that plays out.
But he also said that New Yorkers should be allowed to go to other towns' beaches.
I mean, I think that's where the challenge is going to become. I mean, even here in Pennsylvania, we have areas that are in the yellow zone and some that will be moving to green, apparently. The governor will be making that announcement tomorrow, what counties will start to move to green. So, yeah, I mean, who's to prevent, someone like me living in the red zone from driving to, Center County or whatever county will be in green and then, just spreading the disease.
Well, you don't have the disease as far as you know, correct?
As far as I know. But I mean, I went to Home Depot today. Who knows? I mean, I masked and I hand wiped and all that, but who knows?
May I ask what we got at Home Depot?
Today I needed some garden soil for the new gardens I built this week. Needed some additional wood to finish the gardens and some other pieces to kind of really secure those tightly. I think that was about it. Yeah, just all.
You're becoming a real manly man. I feel like you're leaving me in the dust.
If you saw how these 3 garden beds turned out, they're okay. I certainly do not have a lot of woodworking talent. That's why my wife was like, "Oh, now you can build a little deck on this area here," and I'm like, "No." I'm like, do you see how none of these are even? Do you see how I'm like buying extra metal pieces to hold the gardens together from bursting at the sides? Like, okay. I would not want to risk my life by sitting on anything I would build.
All right. Good to know. Good to know.
Just me. It's just how it goes. So coronavirus, obviously, still big everywhere. So, of course, we have to talk about it a little bit. Churches rushed to reopen. And
Praise
shocker,
Jesus.
spoiler alert, a few churches have had to close again. Holy Ghost Catholic Church in Houston closed after 5 leaders tested positive last weekend following the death of one priest, the Reverend Donnell Kirchner, who was diagnosed with pneumonia. I think that's a side effect of COVID. But anyway, the church had reopened for limited mass on May 2nd. 2 of the priests who tested positive had been active in celebrations. In Ringgold, Georgia, Catoosa Baptist Tabernacle started in-person services again in late April, but stopped on May 11th after learning that members of several families had contracted the virus. Again, people are pushing for churches to open, but not realizing the consequences of cramming a lot of people in a small space.
It's almost as if they did not learn any lessons from what this country went through in March, when the health systems were overloaded in certain areas of this country. And I'm not, speaking just about New York City. We weren't the only area that got hit hard, with this wave of coronavirus cases. I mean, I know. One of the things about the New York marketplace was that we did have to go out there and using forklifts. We had to bring dead bodies out of hospitals into refrigerated trucks because the morgues were just over capacity.
You do love your refrigerated truck talk.
But what I don't understand are people who just are and this, it's I know it's a larger issue, and it's not something you or I are going to resolve. And I don't even know that I would be able to explain all the different dynamics that are going on. But I don't understand the mindset of someone who is just openly flaunting their disbelief that there's something going on here that is putting people's health at risk. Like there was the famous video that was came out earlier today of somebody that was shopping at a Costco and refused to wear a mask and had somehow managed to fill up his cart. But then at some point, and a Costco employee came up to him and said, "You have to put on a mask or you have to leave." And this guy makes this video about how his freedoms are being infringed. And it literally, I don't understand. It's the same mindset as people who are like, coronavirus is not going to keep me from going to my church. And churches is like, no, let's pack as many people into this space as we can right now. And then afterwards, they're like, oh, maybe God isn't trying to protect me from all of this.
Maybe Jesus isn't going to pray the COVID away. Trevor Noah had a good comment about that Costco video. He said it really emphasizes the difference between the races, where black people will have to take out their phones and record because they're frightened of being shot by the police, whereas white people can just record because they feel they're getting their rights stripped at a Costco.
Yeah, it's ludicrous. It is, but it's this. They're so positive that they're right, because and to me it is a mindset of just brutal selfishness. I want to do what I want to do, and nobody is going to tell me what I can and cannot do.
Kudos to that Costco guy, though, because he basically told the guy to fuck off in the nicest way possible, though.
He's not looking to get fired.
It's like, you're going to leave, and I'm going to take your cart. Well, interestingly enough, though, there was, I don't know if you saw the story about the 2 African-American FedEx drivers who were confronted by a homeowner who said, "Oh, how do I know you're not going to steal my come in and rob my house?" after they literally just delivered a package to his house. Yes. And they were basically, told him off while they waited for the police to get there. The 2 of them get fired.
It is a matter of if you are, wearing a uniform, a name badge, if you're an employee, if you're getting paid, there are certain expectations of what your behavior is going to be.
But if someone is being blatantly racist to you, can you not react like a human being?
I think you can react like a human being, but when you are on the clock, there are definite, boundaries of what you can and cannot do.
All right, fair enough. But at the end of
Whereas,
the day,
and I'm not trying to make it a racial thing, but you
right.
watch the video of the guy at Costco, he basically told the guy to fuck off, but he did it in a way in which, in no way can anyone sit there and say that he behaved unprofessionally. Whereas the FedEx guys, I think they were unprofessional. However, if this had happened in a parking lot, when they were, going to Home Depot over the weekend, same thing happens. I think they have every right to behave the way they did. If not, I think they're justified to do worse.
All right. Interesting take. I'll go with you on that.
You wouldn't behave differently if you're at work? I mean, I know you don't have a job right now, so you don't know what it's like to behave at work. Like, you don't understand like the clear demarcation between your personal life and your work life. But if when you got dressed to go to work, if there were two people arguing, you wouldn't step in and just say, hey, let's take this away from the
While
lobby.
that may not be the way that I would behave, like, I could certainly understand these two gentlemen's reaction when you're in FedEx uniforms, you're in a FedEx truck, you've just literally delivered probably a useless item, probably a non-essential item to this cracker's house, and then he's going to come out and be upset because he feels you might break into his house later. Meanwhile, he probably has nothing of value to steal. I would be a bit salty, so I didn't blame them.
You can be salty, but don't cross the line. Now, I didn't watch enough of the video because I have a short attention span to know whether they actually crossed the line or not. But I did hear the video of them talking, and there was that is, I would say, under normal circumstances, meaning not working, they behaved like true gentlemen.
All right. On a plus side, someone did start a GoFundMe for them, which was somewhat north of $15,000 the last time I saw. So at least they'll get a little cash to hold them over until they find a new job.
Should we circulate the link on our social media to help these guys out?
You can get that out there. Let me just jot that little note down here.
What makes you say that you're the one that's going to do that? Why can't I? Like,
You could.
I get it. I'm working from home. I have a job that I have to do. I have to take care of. You don't. Understood.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I meant.
Right.
What else did we have here? So now we are also starting to see, not surprisingly, the result of some of those lockdown protests in different states. People starting to test positive for coronavirus. More importantly, though, by tracking cell phone data of people that attended, now it is assumed that the COVID can be spread into communities that had relatively low case numbers, but because people went to these protests and were commingling with people that have now tested positive, it raises the chance that these areas will now start to see spikes. Again, not shocking in any way, shape, or form.
Nope.
If the challenge is, though, is if anyone goes to those protests and gets coronavirus, it's well deserved. But if they then spread it to people that weren't there, that's
awful.
Shit.
It's just selfishness.
That's all I'm saying.
Just selfishness.
What else do we got here? This was a little disconcerting, especially to you as someone with the antibodies. You should be concerned about this story. 5 Navy sailors aboard the USS Theodore Roosevelt tested positive for coronavirus after appearing to have initially recovered from it. They had tested positive back in March, were cleared to return to the ship after a pair of negative tests, but then apparently it's popped up again, and not, kind of making people question how immunity will work, how herd immunity will work. your thoughts as someone with the antibodies.
Well, as somebody with the antibodies, I can say that I was absolutely symptomatic of from this disease, this awful, dreaded disease that wreaked havoc with my system. Now, if you dig a little deeper in the story, Ron, you will see that these Navy sailors tested positive for the virus, but at no point did they ever exhibit any symptoms of it.
So they were asymptomatic, is what you're saying.
They were asymptomatic, tested positive for the virus, which means that it was found inside their body, but it hadn't taken a hold in their systems.
Interesting. Well, this
So
should make you happy.
Let me ask you a question while we're on the subject, because you know, as somebody who does not have the antibodies, I'd like to know your opinion. Do you think that I can get this disease again?
I think.
And I know that, like, technically they're saying we don't know, we haven't ruled anything out. Yet I filled out a survey today for the New York State Department of Health, as I was recently identified as somebody who has the antibodies, and it was a very short survey. You know, I did my public deed. I did a answered a 5-question survey online. I mean, what more can I do as a member of this society?
What more can you do for people?
And one of the questions was, have you changed your behavior in any way related to protections from coronavirus as a result of your antibody test coming back? And I answered no, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Now, my question to you is, what do you think is the likelihood that I have something to be concerned with, personally, my health?
Personally, your health, I'm not sure. You know, there definitely does seem to be a percentage of cases, however small, where people can contract the coronavirus a second time. I guess the bigger question is, you know, even if you are immune from catching the coronavirus, could you still potentially be a carrier?
Oh, I live in New York. Like, I can no, and this is the reason that why I find it so selfish, the protesters right now. I may not be able to. I may not be actively symptomatic where I'm going to be able to, like, cough on someone. But if I walk outside my apartment door and I open the doorknob of the elevator, I may have just picked it up, and now the coronavirus cells are on my hand. I go to the elevator, I touch a button, I go outside, I start shaking hands, because I'm not. That's how I believe I can still spread it.
Right. Yeah, there's no question.
I don't think that it's going to emanate from me. I think I might be a carrier in the sense of picking up from point A and delivering it to point B, but I just I've yet to see anything that says that people who were symptomatic were then recovered, tested positive for antibodies, and then became symptomatic again.
Well, if you do get it again, Brian, you'll be happy to know that a team of Canadian scientists believe that they have found strong strains of cannabis that could help prevent and then treat coronavirus infections.
What?
Researchers from the University of Lethbridge said that a study in April showed that at least 13 cannabis plants high in CBD that appeared to affect the ACE2 pathways that the bug uses to access the body.
Yeah, you know, I knew that my ACE pathways were obstructed about the second week of March. Just wasn't feeling, on like I normally do.
Well, apparently the cannabis could reduce the virus's entry points by 70 to 80%. Apparently they are stressing that more research is needed. Would you be willing to help them with that cannabis research?
I'm not sure, because if I remember correctly, there was, You know, in the beginning, one of the things that everybody was talking about was this thing goes in through your lungs. So I would imagine I wouldn't want my lungs to be as healthy as possible.
You would think so. It's just a theory, I guess.
So much conflicting recommendations going on right now.
One other thing that has popped up is that new data suggests that COVID-19 disproportionately affects obese people and that they are more likely to suffer severe symptoms than patients who are a healthy weight. I guess it's not, for me, that overly surprising because I would think obesity is a pre-existing condition that, just weakens your body in general. Apparently, that was present as being an underlying health condition in 48% of patients, second only to hypertension, which was present in more than 49% of patients.
What does high blood pressure? How is that affecting it?
I guess anything that potentially weakens parts of your body can make this disease impact you more than someone in better health.
Like I kind of get that, what they say is that this is a respiratory disease, that this thing goes in and affects the lungs, the breathing mechanisms and whatnot. So I understand obesity playing a factor in the sense that, if you're overweight, you're carrying you're carrying more of a body around with you. You're going to struggle. You'll be out of air easily. Your lungs weren't made to carry all that extra weight. But I don't really get having high blood pressure. But I also don't really know what high blood pressure does to you. Doesn't it make your heart weaker?
That I don't know.
Your heart is beating more.
I'm not as educated on high blood pressure. But to your point, yes, about obesity, people with obesity typically have lower operating lung volumes. And then there is also something called obesity hypoventilation syndrome, which can also negatively impact the lungs.
I saw season 3 of that show.
Obesity hypoventilation syndrome?
Yeah. I missed seasons 1 and 2, but I binged season 3. It was worth every minute.
All right. Well, I guess that just kind of leads us to our next obvious question. What are you watching, Brian?
This week, I got to say, I finished The Last Dance on ESPN. Knocked out
it's very good
10 episodes. I wonder. Okay, first off, it's being heralded as one of the best sports documentaries ever in the history of mankind.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this came out at under other circumstances. Say it came out during precedented times and not unprecedented times.
Okay.
Which ironically, because we've had pandemics before, so how can they refer to this as unprecedented? Am I right?
I think the level of shutdown makes it unprecedented.
Things didn't shut down during the Spanish flu?
I wasn't around then. I'm not really sure. Plus, it was 1918. I think there was only 5 businesses open then.
But there was a world war going on, and that's what spread the Spanish flu. It started here in America, and what happened was we were sending soldiers all throughout the world, and that's what started the pandemic. Meanwhile, with the coronavirus, we know that what started here was a Chinese man going from the Wuhan Institute of Health to his favorite wet market for some bat soup, and that is what and that's what made me sick.
Oh boy! So is that all you watched this week?
I watched that, and then I watched. Oh, what was the name of that show? I watched the last episode of Dark Side of the Ring.
Okay.
On Owen Hart.
How was that? We talked about it briefly last week. I've heard mixed reviews on the actual episode, though.
I considering that it's the story of a guy who falls from the rafters of an arena, plummets to his death. I thought it was going to be better.
Okay. Fair enough.
To a certain extent, it was not hard hitting enough in terms of the callousness of the fact that the WWE continued the fights that day, matches, whatever you want to call them, that literally a guy died in the ring and they just continued as if the show must go on, which I get sometimes, like if you were to die of a heart attack right now, I would continue with the podcast.
Fair enough. I would want you to be honest.
Yeah, especially if you were like slumped over, all you see is this. Like, but I felt like they didn't really, hit the WWF hard enough. Like they should have gone harder.
All right. I this week watched Reckoning. It was a 10-episode series on Netflix, basically about a serial killer and a cop trying to catch him. It was one of those things where you watch the first few episodes and you're like, all right, this could be good. And then by the time you realize that it's absolute trash, you're like 5 to 6 episodes in. And you're like, well, now I just have to watch it to see how this turns out. Just to give you an idea as to how bad this is, first off, the basic premise, you got a serial killer. He hunts women with tattoos, strangles them to death, and then takes the scalpel and cuts their tattoos off. So that's the basic premise. But there was so much extra shit that they threw in there. So you've got this police detective who's been working the case for, however many years. And he will get the tattoos of the dead women placed on his body for some reason. Don't really go into that. In the meantime, there's such a convergence between the detective's family, and you find out who the killer is like about halfway through the season, and the serial killer's family. So, for example, the police detective's wife is a therapist. The serial killer's wife starts going to her for therapy. The serial killer has a son who starts hanging out with like one of the daughters from that of the cop. Like the cop's
Right.
got a kid who's on the autism spectrum and has to go to like a special school. Like there's all these different things going on. And where it really got crazy is, getting in the last couple of episodes where the detective starts doing hypnotherapy to attempt to try and figure out who the serial killer is, because he's convinced himself that he's so close to the case that he knows who the killer is, but he just can't figure it out. And then when the hypnotherapy doesn't work, insists that he needs to do LSD therapy and can't get LSD, so he goes to the local pedophile in town who also supplies everybody with natural medicines and literally gets like a frog toxin that gives him like an acid trip, and he figures out who the killer is.
That's fucking lunacy.
One of the crazier shows I've watched. So
why on earth did we just spend so much time talking about it?
I'm not quite sure. And of course, you and I, we watched the first episode of Trial by Media, which covered the Jenny Jones case from the early 90s. So that was a good flashback. It was an interesting documentary.
Yeah, I think, it asked the question of what responsibility does reality TV shows play when the television footage of people has an impact on the life after the show.
And I had forgotten that the Jenny Jones show and Warner Brothers actually lost the initial court case, only to have it overturned on appeal. I thought that they had won the initial case, but I guess I just remember them winning overall at the end of the day. I'm
now of the mindset that almost everything gets overturned on appeal.
Yeah. It's rare that, especially in the case of a jury trial.
Oh,
yes, if the judge is rendering a decision, it seems less likely that those judgments get overturned. But when you get 12 people and all you need to do is convince an appeals court that one or two of those jurors didn't vote in the best interest, seems easier to turn that over.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Now the next episode is about Bernie Getz. Very interesting to see that one. I mean, and that's what I kind of like about it, is kind of going back before you really had this 24-hour news cycle and hitting these stories that, were even when there wasn't social media, even when there wasn't news networks all over the place, that everybody across the country knew. Everybody knew about
Yeah.
the Jenny Jones case. Everybody knew about the Bernard Getz case. So it'll be interesting to see that and what new spin they take on it.
I saw him once on the street.
Did you?
Yeah.
Do you
I,
steer clear so you didn't get shot?
I was on the other side of the street. It was he was crossing one direction, I was crossing the other, and this was around the time that it happened. So like he was instantly recognizable.
Gotcha.
And or maybe like a year after it happened or whatnot. And we crossed, and I immediately recognized. I was like, "Oh my God!" And then as I turned, he was already at the corner and had already started walking down a block. And then he made a quick turn. So I did not have the ability to creep on him and follow him through the streets of New York as I really wanted to.
Could you tell if he was packing heat or not?
No, I did not look at his body. I looked at the face.
Okay. Bernie Getz, guilty or not guilty, in your opinion?
You know what? I don't remember all the details of it, but what I remember is that he kind of got on that train looking for some trouble.
It seemed like he was hunting people.
Yeah, like I think he was trying to. It felt like he was trying to put himself out there to be a victim. Like it was premeditated. My gut says guilty.
All right. We'll watch the episode and see if we have any different thoughts.
Sure. Why not?
Speaking of guilty, a little flashback to that college admission scandal. Today, actress Lori Loughlin and her husband, fashion designer Massimo Giannoli, it was announced that they have agreed to plead guilty to conspiracy charges in connection to their role in the college admissions scam. They really seem bound and determined to go to court, and then a whole other pile of charges got thrown on top of them. But they apparently decided to take an out. I believe she is getting 2 months in prison, and he is getting 5 months in prison. So a lot longer than the 14 days that Felicity Huffman got. In addition, Loughlin faces a $150,000 fine, 2 years of supervised release, and 100 hours of community service. And Giannoli faces a $250,000 fine, 2 years of supervised release, and 250 hours of community service. Were you surprised to see this plea?
Yes, I thought they were going to take it to court. But at the same time, I think, I don't understand how they could claim that they had done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
It's kind of ludicrous if, you're faking, photos of your daughter as rowing a boat, and the kid's never done anything of it. Yeah. But at the same time, I just think I don't think either of these two are going to do any time. I think they're going to get sentenced, and they're going to do their time at home.
I know the judge has delayed their prison sentences for 90 days due to the coronavirus situation. And yeah, I mean, when you've seen people like Michael Cohen get out of jail early, Paul Manafort this past week was let out of jail early for coronavirus concerns.
Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Yeah, true. I feel, especially when you're looking at people for 2 months or 5 months, I can't picture that they go to jail. But who knows?
It's also,
maybe the prosecutors will push for it.
I don't think they will. This is why the only reason they'll push for it is just out of anger that these two fought the charges for so long.
Right. I mean, they were facing 20 years on the conspiracy charge, so to get 2 and 5 months is pretty light. And they become the 23rd and 24th parents to either get found guilty or plead guilty in this case.
Which is ironic because when you really think about it, they should be going after my parents for bribing my way into SUNY Albany.
Which you excelled. You were a premier student. As far as that's how I remember it anyway.
Yes.
What else we got this week, Brian?
Where do I start? There's so much going on. Can we talk about the Justice League?
We can. I guess my first question to you is, did you ever see the movie Justice League? Knowing
No.
you are the DC fan that you are.
Well, if you remember correctly, I was, when the movie originally came out, I was in the deepest throes of the coronavirus. It was, those were just dark days. The idea of, I wouldn't have been healthy had I left the house and gone to a movie theater.
Okay. All right. Well, just to give Brian and whoever is unaware of it. So obviously Justice League was the DC superhero movie that came out a while back. Zack Snyder was initially supposed to be the director. He was forced to exit due to a family emergency. So the movie was then substantially reshot and retooled by replacement director Josh Whedon. Did not get great response. I saw it, not a great movie whatsoever. But fans...
No. Hold on a second here, because I know that you are a Marvel person. So your opinion of a DC movie, I don't think carries a lot of weight.
It's not just mine. If you look at the movie scores on Rotten Tomatoes, if you look at feedback from people, not a great film, but people did start to push for releasing the Snyder Cut a couple of years ago. People bought a Times Square billboard, chartered a plane to fly a banner over Comic-Con. So now, apparently HBO Max is now going to debut the Snyder Cut in 2021, possibly in a 4-hour director's cut or in 6 TV-style chapters.
What on earth is HBO Max?
That is their online streaming service. So if I'm getting this correctly, if you have HBO through your cable service, you can go HBO Go to do your streaming. But HBO Max is an additional streaming service. I think it's like $12 a month. I believe they're going to have the whole Friends catalog starting May 27th. So it's kind of like the CBS All Access. It's additional content that you don't necessarily get through the main subscription.
I don't need that, do I?
I don't think you do, unless you're really jonesing to watch the Snyder Cut.
No, I did, however, I will admit that I just signed up for the Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus package.
It's because of Hamilton, isn't it?
I think it's because I've started to run out of things to watch on Netflix.
Netflix has been releasing a lot of crap lately.
I think at this point they're buying anything that's been produced.
Well, they really are, but a lot of it's really bad. Especially the TV shows. Like you watch like an episode and it's like, all right, I can't watch any more of this.
They've been just terrible. Though I have been hearing, and I can't believe that it's any good, but I've been hearing a lot about the David Spade movie that they just put out with the wrong.
I did not watch it. My wife watched it. Said it is watchable. That's about it.
Which for David Spade acting stuff over the past 20 years, that actually is a huge testament to maybe it's worth watching.
That's really all you're shooting for these days.
I mean, he's put out some real shit over the years.
I feel he peaked with Joe Dirt.
I was going to say I think he peaked with Chris Farley.
Well, no question, but I think on his own, probably Joe Dirt was probably his zenith.
Yes. Did they make a sequel to that or no?
They did make a Joe Dirt 2, which I think went straight to DVD.
Ugh. You and straight to the Walmart $3.99 bin right by the counters.
And if you think about it, Joe Dirt was also the last time that Dennis Miller was watchable.
Well, he just got political,
right?
And oddly political.
Yeah, he used to be hilarious. I used to love Dennis Miller. And then
not anymore.
He just got crazy.
He did go crazy, yes.
Let's see here. German Pro Soccer League Bundesliga I know you've signed up for their streaming service because they are aiming for a May return. But unfortunately, they will not have fans in attendance as all large-scale public events in Germany are banned through August 31st. But a fan actually came up with a pretty interesting idea. Ingo Müller, a member of their supporters club, began selling cardboard cutouts of fans' likenesses to place in the seats during games. They cost $20.60, and he's already apparently sold 10,000 of them.
What?
So, 10,000 cutouts. Each cutout gives business to a local printer in Mönchengladbach, Germany. And Mueller says he's sending.
That place is beautiful during the spring. The colors just come out. It's so beautiful.
All right. Mueller says he is sending a portion of the proceeds to fans struggling financially during the pandemic. So that will be very interesting to see. The team had already stationed 3,000 cutouts across the 54,000 seat stadium, but now they'll have at least 10,000 more to put in there.
I always get leery when I hear they say that, a portion of the proceeds will go to ... because that's it means that the number is small enough that they're embarrassed to say aloud.
Right.
Because if they were going to say 50% of all proceeds go, they would say 50%.
If you give 1%, then you're basically meeting the qualification to say, well, we're giving a portion of the proceeds to these poor schmucks out here.
Yeah, that's why when I hear like a portion of the proceeds, my cynicism kicks in, which is you're making a shit ton of money off this under the guise that it's for charity. Meanwhile, the actual charity is seeing a fraction of what you're pocketing.
Yeah.
And that leads me to feeling lousy. But you know what else makes me feel lousy?
What's that?
Celebrity deaths.
I was going to say we do have a bunch of them to hit on here. Let's just roll into it. We had William Roosevelt Jernin, who apparently was a butler at the White House since 1957. He passed away from coronavirus at the age of 91.
Now, he's not the guy that worked for Trump that just got it. He's different,
no.
Correct?
He was different. He worked for Bush, for the Clintons. I believe he retired during the Obama administration. So thanks, Obama.
Thanks.
Is it not a little odd, though, that the White House has servants in this day and age?
Well, now they're called valets.
I guess. This was
but think about it. Do you think Trump is going to pick up his food from downstairs and bring it?
I'm not saying that, but it just seems like the optics of having the elderly African American butler waiting on the white head of state just seems like we could do something better these days.
Kind of like driving Mr. President?
Something like that.
Yeah.
This was a sad story. Ex-WWE star Shad Gaspard died from drowning at Venice Beach this past week. He had gone swimming with his son. Apparently a riptide pulled them out. A lifeguard went out to save them, was going to attempt to save both of them. Apparently, according to the lifeguard, Shad Gaspard pushed his son to the lifeguard and said, "Save him. I'll take and then come back for me." Unfortunately, that was not the case. He was pulled under by the riptide, and his body was found early yesterday. Very sad story.
You really get pulled underwater?
Apparently, and he's not a small guy. Like Shad Gaspard was like 6'7", 280, 290. Pro athlete.
His wife told me he was actually a pretty small guy.
Oh, why you gotta be like that? I just don't get it. Let's see. This, I know you're a big Trading Spaces fan from back in the day, right?
What's Trading Spaces?
Really? You never watched Trading Spaces on whatever TV show that or whatever network that was, where
I don't get Bravo.
where the two couples trade their houses for a few days and each renovates a room in the others?
Why on earth would I watch that?
I enjoyed it back in the day. Well, anyway, one of the designers from that show, Frank Bielik, passed away this week at the age of 72 after suffering a heart attack. It was a TLC show. That's why. I know you love TLC.
I don't think I've ever put on TLC.
Wow. I'm a little disappointed in you.
Listen, you know how much I hate to disappoint you.
Going way back for this one, Ken Osmond played Eddie Haskell on Leave It to Beaver, passed away at the age of 76, died at his Los Angeles home, surrounded by family members. Cause of death is unknown.
Has anybody got a quote from Donnie or Marie?
I don't think. Are they related? I don't know.
But it was good, right?
It was good. I'll give you that much.
I'll take it.
Talk about a guy that was stereotyped, though. I don't remember him doing anything after Leave It to Beaver until he returned for the telefilm Still the Beaver in 1983, and for the revival series, the new Leave It to Beaver. And then in 1997, returned for the feature film Leave It to Beaver.
Listen,
he's like the Eddie Munster of family comedies.
Yes, and at the same time, it's, white people in the heartland fucking love Leave It to Beaver.
That's true. That is very true. Phyllis George, trailblazing sportscaster, passed away at the age of 70. She had been crowned Miss America, and then 4 years later became co-host of the CBS show The NFL Today. I don't know.
Not the biggest death of the week.
Not the biggest death of the week. This one, it hurt a lot. Fred Willard passing away at the age of 86. Legend? Icon?
I'm going to go icon. I'm not going to go legend. I believe there's a lot of people that don't know who Fred Willard is. I think if you're a comedy fan, you know who Fred Willard is, because the man is funny. He had the ability to walk onto a screen and you suddenly stopped paying attention to anybody but him.
He was, and he could really be in any movie, TV show, any character, and you were fine with it. Like there are certain actors that when you see them in certain roles, certain characters, you're like, I'm not buying it. Never a case with Fred Willard.
Yeah.
Great work with Christopher Guest. I mean, he was in 5 or 6 shows or 6 movies of his.
Yeah. Absolutely.
With This Is Spinal Tap. I mean, I remember him, and this is going to age me a bit. I remember him from when he did Fernwood Tonight with Martin Mull years and years and years ago. I mean, just so unlike anything that was on the air at the time.
Just a game changer.
I mean, Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, For Your Consideration.
I loved all of those movies.
Yeah. His role, Everybody Loves Raymond, was great. He was a staple on Letterman. If you there's actually a YouTube video of his appearances on Letterman. I think it runs like 2 hours or more. He popped up on Modern Family. Most recently, he popped up on I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson, playing a sketch as a substitute funeral organist. Again, I know you haven't been a fan of I Think You Should Leave, but find the episode with Fred Willard in it.
Keep trying to sell me on that show.
He's literally a funeral organist that is playing like circus music during a funeral. It's just fucking classic. And then his final role is going to be in Netflix's Space Force, which will be released next week on the 29th.
I think that's going to take off. That show's going to be big.
Yeah, I think with him in there. So very sad though. We will definitely miss Fred Willard.
We miss him. We miss him already.
All right. Anything else this week? We've done some good work this week, Brian.
I want to acknowledge great work. You
Okay.
said we've done good work. I want to acknowledge great work. And what I'm referring to is last week's Patreon.
It was, I mean, if I may humbly say, I think last week's Patreon may have been our best Patreon episode of all time.
May, it was hands down our absolutely best Patreon. Literally, we had a list of wacky topics to discuss, and you played some intro music, and within, I would say, 15 seconds, we are off on a tangent that literally had me captivated at your story of how do I say this? Your
just maybe you know what? If you give too much, it doesn't encourage people to go sign up for the Patreon. So let's just say it's a story that you have to hear to believe.
And you can only hear it at our Patreon. So go to our website, click the link at the top of the screen to our Patreon, subscribe. The money that you send us every month goes to help pay for all of my toilet paper that I have stocked up behind me.
Your beer fridge, your beer orders, all of that.
Absolutely. So, we want to thank everybody that is currently a Patreon subscriber. We would love more. There are multiple affordable tiers that you can come in at. I did want to point out that if you do go in at the $5, I believe that's the aluminum tier.
Yes, it is.
That will give you that gives you access only to the audio of our Patreon.
But if you do $10 or higher, you have access to the special video of Patreon as well.
Correct. So the podcast video we are putting up on YouTube every week. The video of the Patreon only available for the patrons that are subscribing at levels that really speak to their commitment to the type of entertainment we're dishing out.
It's true. It's true. Hey, why don't we go record a Patreon episode right now?
Let's do it right now.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. We are going to roll on out of here. Thank you for listening. We will catch you next week. In the meantime, head to RonandBrianPodcast.com.